And you knew the Democrats were going to use Charlottesville to its fullest effect. Of course they were. It was Trump's lowest moment of his presidency. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are trying on the right to engage in what I consider to be revisionist history about what President Trump said about Charlottesville. He did not say there were good Nazis, but what he did say is that there were good people on both sides of the marches in Charlottesville. This was simply not true. The people who were marching in Charlottesville around the statue, it was not a bunch of nice people who showed up to march.
I hate Ben Shapiro. He has so many videos like this where before he was a total Trump dick rider, he was, by the way, he called it an insurrection the next day. He used that term without anybody in the left prompting. He called it an insurrection.
And this was an attempted act of insurrection. I mean, technically speaking, that's what it was. Frankly, I think that in many ways, it's the worst thing to happen to the United States of America since 9/11.
God, I hate this guy.
With Richard Spencer, this thing was identified as a Unite the Right rally that was led by alt-right white supremacists. And when President Trump said this, it was a huge mistake. He knew it at the time. He apologized for it. Then he moved back in the other direction. I'm going to play you the full clip of President Trump talking about it. People are trying to say he meant there were people on both good people on both sides of the Confederate statue debate. If that's what he had said, I would have not only had no problem with it, I would have agreed with it. But that's not really what he said. What he said is there were good people marching, who was specifically referring to that Friday night. So here's what the president said.
You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
So that last comment, people are now taking that out of context on the right and suggesting that Trump was not talking about the protesters who showed up. He was talking about writ large Confederate statues. Okay, that is not accurate. Okay, that is just not what he said at the time.
Like, I disagree with Ben a lot, but like, we need these conservatives back. You can still, I don't think you should vote for Trump at this time, but fuck it, I would even handle it. All right, you can still be a Trump voter because you can't stomach voting for a Democrat or even abstain from voting, fine. But this is gone from the Republican Party. There's a reason this video is unlisted, okay? This is gone from the Republican Party. They cannot hold their own accountable ever. They can't do it. It's a cult.
And so I'm loath to rewrite history in favor of President Trump, specifically because that, again, I want to read you the entire transcript. Okay, here's what he said. This is the entire transcript. I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame objectively on both sides. I have no doubt about it. You don't have any doubt about it. If you reported it accurately, you would say the neo-Nazis started this thing. They showed up in Charlottesville. Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis. You had some very bad people in that group. You also had some very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. And then he moved on to his discussion of generalized statues and the taking down of those statues, an issue about which I largely agree with President Trump. But I'm not going to buy the rewriting of history just for partisan purposes. So that is not what President Trump said when he says find people on both sides. He was not specifically talking about the generalized debate, a proposition with which I agree. He was talking, he referred to the pictures of the violence. He talked specifically about the night that he was talking about. I've yet to identify the nice people who were marching with Richard Spencer that night. Okay, end of story. So that is a fair hit. It is also fair to note that the Democrats have then taken this and blown this up into President Trump.
I'm so curious now. Do you think that we can find something in the past year or two where Ben Shapiro refers to how this is the biggest lie the Democrats have ever said? Oh, thank you. I knew he said this. I knew he said this because this is the number one fucking meme that conservatives saying that when P.F. Young said, this is what changed my mind, it's because conservatives told him that it was supposed to change his mind. It's not that people dispassionately viewed all the evidence, and it was because he was told, also probably by other quote unquote centrists, like people like Joe Rogan. Okay? That's what happened. Because we have this.
And you knew the Democrats were going to use Charlottesville to its fullest effect. Of course they were. It was Trump's lowest moment of his
presidency. And then we have his tweet.
Now, I know, listen, there are a lot of
few
people
months ago,
who are trying on the right.
Of course he jumped on board with this. Find people on both sides? Lie. Stand back and stand by? Lie.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
Bloodbath? Lie. We're the ABC moderators fact-checking, or are their heads too far up Kamala Harris's ass to speak at this point? Every single time. Every time you get them on this. Every time.